Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fangs for the Fantasy, the weekly podcast where we discuss our favourite genre in all of its myriad forms. As ever, your hosts are me, Paul, and the Queen of Winter, Renee. Hello, Renee.
Hello, Paul.
We have a bazillion one shows and books and things to cover, so let us dive in with that show which we want to love but always seems to fail on us, Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, I don't know that I want to love it. I think you're being generous there. I think it's more I tolerate it, but oh well.
I want to love it because it could be good. It really could. It just isn't.
You want to love it because you want your own demon. That's why you want to love it.
I want a demon. I will dress it in a red coat and I will send it to America.
Oh dear. And this right there is the problem.
So this week I found one good thing, which was then piled with a whole lot of bad. The good thing is Crane and Abby got together and said, hey, you know what? Our relationship is actually really, really degrading. And this is a problem. And I like this because them being apart has been a problem. The show was always made on these two protagonists bouncing off each other, and they did it really well. And since she who destroyed this show became more present, that has really fallen apart. So I'm really, really, really glad that Ichabod and Abby have actually got together and said, hey, you know what? This is a problem. There is a problem that we are not so close anymore. There's a problem that we're not working together like an old machine. And there's a problem that we're not as friendly or as trusting of each other anymore. But equally, while I love that, there's still the big elephant in the room that neither of them is acknowledging what the problem is and why this has happened.
Well, they have acknowledged it to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that Abby is saying, well, I don't want to come between you and your wife, and, your mourning issues, so it's a roundabout way of saying it. We've heard both sisters acknowledge disliking Katrina. They just haven't said it to each other.
And they haven't quite said it appropriately. Like they said, yes, I have some issues with Katrina, rather than Katrina is the source of all evil and the cause of all things bad in this world. Which she is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's some cause to Hawley, but it's mainly Katrina.
Well, I was disappointed in that they gave us Holly's backstory, and I thought, was anybody really dying to know?
Exactly. I mean, this whole character is extraneous anyway. He is completely unnecessary to the plot. And then we're going to spend a whole week randomly appropriating Hindu mythology, even if we did have the most excellent Jamie Murray, who we all love.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's why? We don't need this. We don't want this. This is not necessary.
Okay.
Why develop a side character no one cares about? I mean, he's now actually had just about as much side development as Frank and Jenny. Maybe not Jenny so much, but still.
Yeah. Well, I think that actually I don't know. I can't justify why they would do that with Holly. And in fact, Holly's story this week sort of um, took more precedent than what was going on with Frank.
Far more compelling and far more important.
You know? And there, I was really kind of upset because you had Frank, who's given up so much, and where were Abby and Ichabod? They were nowhere to be found.
Instead, I mean, I can understand, and I think it'd be a great story to develop. Wariness of Frank. Is he still connected to the Horsemen of War? Is there an issue? But to have that variness and develop it, you need to actually do something.
Um, I wasn't really pleased with it, even if that's the reason, even if they're wary. Frank has done so much and been a friend to them and had their back, and it's just really indicative of how little anyone seems to care what happens to him.
Yeah. Well, so I can understand their wariness, and that'd be fine. But the wariness doesn't mean ignoring him or neglecting him. It means working with him. It means Abby and Ichabod should be far more invested in trying to find out whether or not they can trust Frank. They should value Frank's relationship enough and what Frank's done with them so much that they would want to spend more time with him to see if they can go back to where they were and rekindle the relationship they lost for half a season. They shouldn't just, oh, he's back from the dead, let's ignore him because distrust. You could have distrust, but that doesn't mean discounting this character or the storyline.
Hmm.
Distrust would mean spending more time with him because they would value what they had enough to want to get it back. To over the can't Distrust wouldn't drive them away. It'd be something they'd be trying to overcome, and there's no indication of that.
Actually, none whatsoever.
That's it. They're using distrust to just keep him apart from them, rather than saying, you know what, let's examine this. And rather than, but you could still be influenced by the Horsemen of War. But the alternative to that isn't, oh, so we can't trust you and we'll avoid you. It's, well, let's fix this to make sure you're not.
Well, what irked me is then they send in Katrina, of course, right?
Oh, I hate her so much.
Who's really only interested in finding out if the fruit of her womb is okay.
And that's, yeah, that annoyed me. It's a case of, I'm going to find out if we can trust you, but not really. I'm really here to find out if my evil, evil son is around, along with my evil, evil ex.
Right? And that's all that was about.
Exactly. She completely turned it up to be about Henry. And it's a case of, why? It's like, why are you invested in Henry? And don't give me this fruit of the womb nonsense. It's ridiculous. She never got to know this guy, and he was purely evil.
Well, that's just it. She held him. How long did Katrina actually hold him in her arms as a baby? And
It's
I get it. You never forget your child. I get that whole maternal, you never forget your child. But isn't her child well and truly dead?
She's now presented with a what? More than, well, he's technically immortal, but by all intents and purposes, a 60-year-old stranger.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Isn't
Yeah.
he essentially dead?
The connection between this man and the baby she once held way back when is negligible. He's dead. You're right. He is dead. He is a non. He is no longer the child she lost. And
Hmm.
it's weird and slightly creepy that she's willing to just completely ignore the complete lack of connection they have because womb.
Well, yes, it comes down to that.
Yeah, it's creepy and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, and it just adds to the many things that makes this character so damn infuriating. And it annoys me as well because it also damages Ichabod's character and even Abby's character to a degree. Because in some ways they're trying to not paint Abby as the jealous other woman, because it seems to be television can only see two women not liking each other on that basis.
Hmm.
They're not having her actively call out her bullshit as much as she should be doing. And meanwhile, Crane has lost any pretension of common sense out of some eternally misguided loyalty for the show ruiner.
Well, let's not forget, Katrina is a super powerful witch. We keep being reminded of this.
We keep being told of this because you'll be amazed to see.
I just, how much does it take for this man to consider divorce?
Yeah, should be past time because even the most dedicated person to the sanctity of marriage is going to turn and say, "Oh look, she let the horseman of death free." That's got to be grounds for a divorce. Released horseman of death. Released horseman of death was also her ex. I mean, for goodness sake.
You would think, wouldn't you?
I mean, there has to. I think that's also why we got Abby this time trying to say, well, Katrina could merely be right. Not because it's in any way remotely sensible, but because the show is in the same way they keep telling us that Katrina is a powerful witch, despite it obviously being a lie. They also have to try and tell us that Katrina is reasonable. because that's also a lie. And it's only by telling us rather than presenting us with the very blatant evidence to the contrary that they can even try and sell this idea.
Hmm.
But it doesn't work because she's ridiculous.
Oh, beyond actually.
When she dies, fandom. Well, if this character is actually killed off, fandom will have a parade.
Only some. Somebody must love her somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's some really weird Ichabod and Katrina shippers who are really, really invested in this relationship, and I don't get it. What is there to like?
Well, the old world thing, right?
Ugh, but can you really overlook so much bullshit?
Yeah,
Oh, it
apparently so.
reduces my faith in humanity.
Apparently you can. I just wish, I think, like I said, what I found the most upsetting about this entire thing was, yes, I'm glad that they were working on their relationship. It needed to happen. But for that to happen, to have Abby turn around and say, oh, Katrina was right, because Orion does not make sense.
It doesn't. I mean, yes, Orion turned out to be colossal arsehole, but there was. It's not like Katrina trusting the Horseman of War here. Um, she had every reason to trust Orion.
Well, precisely. I mean, it didn't make any sense, and I thought it was like a step backward um, rather than a step forward. Of course, Abby had to be wrong. It couldn't be Katrina's just, you know, just not right. Abby had to be wrong for them to find peace. And I have a problem with that because Abby wasn't wrong. Abby was the only one who was reasonable in the situation.
Exactly. But I think that's, as I say, with this tell rather than show, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to have, um, oh, they're trying to have a level of sharing the blame between Ichabod and Addy
Hmm.
because they feel a need to. It's the only way they can try and keep Katrina from being irredeemably evil, and this is why they keep trying to force it. They're going to keep trying to force this, oh, we were both a bit wrong, because the alternative is they have to face the truth, which is it's all Katrina's fault.
Hmm. And they won't be willing to do that.
Exactly, and this is a problem. It's a problem. Either they have to radically change Katrina's character, or they have to embrace the reality they've created. They have created a reality where Katrina is always wrong. Even when things turn out okay, like Henry deciding to kill Moloch,
Oh,
it's
but he
not
did it for
because she's
Mummy.
right. No, it's not because she's right. It's just sheer random bad writing. Oh, it's
He
aggravating,
did
and
that for Mummy, though.
oh bullshit, she did.
Which actually kind of cracked me up. He did it to save me.
He did it because his daddy issues are so epic that they applied to his surrogate father,
You know,
and because Moloch is apparently incapable of manipulating people.
clearly so, actually.
And that is why it's terrible writing. That's how it worked. But this is what they have to do, things like this, have to have endings like that. They have to have Abby say, well, I was partially at fault, even though it's all complete bullshit, because the alternative is to look at Katrina without all these weird lenses. And if you do that, you see someone who makes you think that witch burning wasn't all that bad.
Now.
So, yes, Katrina, no. She and Hawley need to run away together, but not breed because I fear for the children. I mean, they would be even worse than the current children she has.
Yes. There's a little bit of horror going on there.
Yeah.
No doubt. it's just a disappointment. I think all told, Sleepy
Hmm.
Hollow. It's a case of what could have been.
It is because it's frustrating. I mean, we didn't always like the first season, but we didn't like it because of its silliness and because it didn't give me a demon and all that thing. We never were outraged and offended by it to a degree, to any real degree. Not like this.
Well, I didn't like it mainly because it's cheap American propaganda.
Yeah, but
You know.
it was still so much better.
Um, I think that to some degree they've forgotten why people watch the show.
I think this is evident by if you actually look at, for example, what Fox is saying about trying to save Sleepy Hollow, because it's notable that a lot of shows on Fox were renewed and Sleepy Hollow wasn't.
Hmm.
It's a case of, well, why wasn't it? So I think Fox is trying to patch a little bit, but again, their idea is less meta plot, more random monsters of the week, and it's like, well, no one wants that, and that is not the reason fans are leaving the show.
Hmm.
How tone deaf can you be to think this is the problem? It's,
Oh, I just want to say, here's the thing that gets me about it. How many examples do they have to see of shows starring diverse casts or people of color or people who are marginalized in some way understand that this is what people want to see? Do you know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Like I look at, for instance, the latest hit, which is Empire. Now, yeah, granted, there's some controversy over it. Some
mm-hmm,
black folk aren't pleased and say that it, says the worst things about black culture. However, what it does have is essentially an all black cast. It has gay characters, and guess what was renewed right away?
Empire, exactly.
How to Get Away with Murders, Scandal. How many times do you need to be told?
How many times does Shonda Rhimes have to tell you?
I don't think Empire is Shonda, oddly enough. I
Isn't it?
think Empire's,
I thought it
no, I'm
was.
pretty sure it's someone else. I could be wrong though. Um, but I guess basically what I'm trying to say is Sleepy Hollow would have been counted amongst that, because of all of it it wasn't diverse in terms of sexuality, but it was diverse in terms of racial representation.
Yep.
It had something there. And
And
I
it is
think that,
something that's really happening on ABC. Blackish, Christella. These are the shows which are winning.
yeah,
So sorry, go on. I
and
just
exactly. And I think that, when you see these and you have to say to yourself, how many times do you have to be told?
and it's so frustrating. You want to tell and say, look, diversity sells. You with any diversity, unless you all get an initial watching, even if it ends up being really, really terrible and people are eventually abandoning it, you will get that opening. People will come and see it to see the diversity because diversity is something which a lot of marginalized groups are still desperately hungering for.
Yeah,
And I think that they're really missing it, and I don't know how they can't see it.
I just think they don't want to believe it. I mean, they're so caught. The media is supposed to be advanced, but in so many ways, it's not nearly as liberal as it presents itself to be.
Hmm.
You know?
And this is what always gets me when people say, "Oh, look, it's liberal Hollywood," and it's a case of, well, not really. It's not from what I've seen, not that much. The diversity. I mean, and again, it's also not just in the number of minorities, but it's the roles they get. was still stuck on these minor roles, these tokens, these side characters.
Oh, I agree with you there.
And yeah, and you just gotta, why? Look, it's a winning formula to have marginalized people in prominent roles. So why not?
Because they want to go with the tried and true.
Hmm. And but the tried and true, I think also the tried and true is getting old. I think that's part of the many reasons what happened to Constantine. Because you know, it's nothing special. It's as we've seen this before.
Hmm.
So it's another gritty straight white guy with a bit of stubble. Yeah, we've seen this. We've seen this over and over again. It's not exciting. It's not original. But they don't listen. They're in complete denial about it.
Oh, absolute. Absolute denial. And like I said, I don't know how many times they need to see it happen. But some people are picking up on it.
Yeah,
Some
Shonda
people are.
Rhimes. She's coining it in.
Well, I think that it's going to get to a point, a critical point, where people are going to have to realize that they're going to have to do something different. Shonda is making a case, and I mean, you have some old dodgy men in charge,
Hmm. Well,
and
also, sorry, go on.
you have some old dodgy straight cis white men in charge of Hollywood, essentially, and
Hmm.
that worked for many many years. But it's competition is fierce, and they're finding it harder and harder and harder to compete. So it's either wake up and see what's going on. I mean, you have the CW talking about how impossible Thursday nights are because of Shonda,
Yeah.
openly admitting it.
Well, in which
You know?
case, will you stop pretending Shonda doesn't have the key?
So I personally think that um, they're going to have to. The light of day has to come.
Hmm.
Because that's one, two. Wait, Grey's Anatomy, the three Shonda shows, right? And now Empire, and I hear there's a fourth one on the way. So
Even even the
look out.
first season. Sorry, go on.
It really is a case of look out.
Even the first season of Sleepy Hollow. I mean, that's the thing. They had their own example. Sleepy Hollow was renewed almost as soon as it appeared,
Hmm.
and then it's a case of, oh, it's working. I know. Now's the time to change it. And the thing is, which really, really annoys me, they know, because if you look at their social media campaigning, they aim for minorities so much. Look at the work they were doing around Sleepy Hollow, saying, "Oh no, hold on, it's going to get better. Trust us." Look at the time. Look at the number of horrendous shows which have tried to big up their minimal to non-existent LGBT inclusion, including Constantine.
Well, it's because now, I mean, I think part of the problem is they think that there's this standard market, right?
Hmm.
It's a question of who they believe is watching TV.
Yeah, but it's depressing to see in their marketing. They know that appealing to minorities is going to get them a big fan base. But then, they're only going to throw the tokens, and they refuse to acknowledge it in their actual shows themselves, just in how they market them.
Well, you can see though that this approach is backfiring steadily.
People are getting more and more hacked off by lying social media campaigns.
You can only pull it off for so long.
Hmm.
And the smart ones will capitalize and move forward.
Yeah,
And the other ones will stand there scratching their head, wondering why
and
their
just
ratings are slipping or the movie isn't doing well, or
why
and
Shonda is completely dominating the entire night.
Well, it's not just about that. It's the stories that they tell in general
Mm-hmm.
need to change. You know, everyone's talking about that new Kevin Costner flick, the one where he's got the little girl,
Yeah.
his granddaughter. And could it be any more white savior narrative? And I bet they thought they were doing a good thing. And I saw it and I said, this is just another example of how media does not get it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we hear liberal media, it just does not get it. It keeps bringing back the same trope after trope after trope and wondering why people are checking the hell out.
Yep. And it makes you wonder what it will take. What will it take?
Well, I am positive. I do feel like we really are on the path for change. I really do.
I think, I mean, much as I hate these social media bullshit lies that we keep doing, I think the fact that they are doing them, ridiculous that it may seem, is in part way somewhat indicative that, hey, you know what? Yeah, that they realise there's something here.
Yeah, they do. They do. And like I said, I mean, when it starts costing them money, which I think it already is a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad that that's what it's going to be. It's going to be about money.
Exactly.
Um, that and only that will cause them to change. And unfortunately for them, the buying power of marginalized people is increasing despite the fact that, we are so severely marginalized.
I think
So good luck.
it's also because it's changing. I mean, I think, again, social media in particular has made it possible that we are having a lot more of these discussions. We are criticizing, we are debating, we are having Twitter parties and blogs, and, there's a lot more connection here. So because of that, and there's a lot more media discussion, there's also a lot more marginalized people turning around saying, no, I'm not watching this. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not paying for this.
Yep.
There's better out there, and they're hearing that they're not alone in saying this, and they're recommending things to each other. The word of mouth now means so much more with social media.
Or even to some degree creating your own. Um,
Exactly.
like with these different little web series and things like that.
Yeah, there's more out there, and it's becoming and particularly as well with more ways to watch television, streaming, web series, and even markets like Amazon and Netflix getting into creating their own content.
Hmm.
Everything's becoming there's a lot more choice and there's a lot more push to find a niche.
Like, would Orange is the New Black have made it on a cable network?
Oh, hell no.
But
Absolutely not.
now I'm betting they wish they had it.
Hmm. And it's working. So we do have a positive slant. There is, I think we are heading upwards slowly and with frequent steps back, but the direction is up.
Well, that's what I think too. I think there's a lot to be hopeful about, a lot to be positive about. Um, and one way or another, they can't hold back. They cannot hold back progress forever. They just
Exactly.
can't.
But
And if their conscience doesn't get them, their pocketbook will.
exactly, because there's so much competition out there. But I think we should move on to our next show, and to someone who is indeed doing her very best to hold back this progress, the anti-Shonda, Julie Fleck,
Oh God.
and the Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
So I'm going to cover some of the many. Well, first of all, I'm going to start with a positive thing. I've actually found a positive thing. I thought the
Did you
acting and
really?
immersion around Liz's terminal illness was actually really beautifully done. I'm actually kind of glad they didn't kill her off, even though I did kind of think, say, wow, you wasted a really beautiful death scene there by letting her live. But, which, yeah, I did think that. But I also think that Liz deserves better than to have her dramatic death scene interrupted by Kai running around being a marauder.
Can I just say for the record, Liz is the last parent left alive on the show.
Yep, and now she's
They
terminally
managed to kill
ill.
them all off so far.
It's quite impressive. But yeah, I like that. So I'll give him that. I even like little things like Caroline was planning the funeral, which seems really cold and awful, but then you realise that's kind of what Caroline does. She plans parties, she organises, and she's fled basically into it.
Yeah, that felt very macabre to me, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
I think it was supposed to be macabre. So yeah, I will give it that. That was a good scene. Even if Elena did say, oh, did come into it and say, everybody's grieving and sad. Make it about me! Me! Oh my god. I couldn't believe it when it said, Caroline's hugging Liz saying, Mother, you're alive! And then Elena has to leave the room so she can rekindle her relationship with Damon because for 5 seconds it wasn't about her.
No, you know we can't have that.
I just look at it, wow, you are just such a terrible person. This is every week. It's a, why is Elena terrible this week?
Which is why I think that from time to time they've done things to have all the characters get mad at her because they realize that essentially they can't get away with making her this the heroine without pointing out the ways in which she is awful. They did
Hmm.
that with Suki a few times on on oh,
Oh, True Blood, yeah.
thank you. I couldn't get it out there. Yes. You sort of put you can only have a character do so many awful things before you have to do a reaction thing, right?
Yeah. At some point, they need turning out. They do really need calling out and saying, no, this is not okay.
I do, however, believe Elena's due again.
Oh, yes. Oh, she's very due.
I could care less about her relationship with Damon. Um, are we going to talk about the big elephant in the room for this week's
Yeah,
show?
let us talk about Luke. Now, let me count the many ways I don't like. I'm furious about this. I am legitimately blazing about this one. First of all, let's remember that this is the story. This is the show that brought the only other previous LGBT characters on this show have been a gay character who was mind controlled straight in the very first season. And then we had Catherine and Caroline's dad, who arrived single to make sure there was no relationships. And in some cases, I think there was many people who didn't even realise he was gay. And among the fandom, many people thought Luke was the first one. And of course, he did his conversion therapy thing on Caroline, who was born this way, don't you know?
Oh, I know. I know. It was, I have to say, in terms of that scene, it was so bad that I know you're not going to like hearing it. I found it comic because I thought you can't expect me to take this seriously, can you?
Hmm. And you just looked and go, what the hell is this? But then we bring in Luke. Now, from this, first of all, there's a bad writing here. From the very beginning, Luke. I mean, it's now oh, Luke is more powerful than Liv. From the very beginning, Luke was the weak one.
Yeah.
Remember, a group of Enzo mind controlled a group of college football players to kidnap Luke. He's a freaking witch. He should have. He's able to make people's heads explode, apparently, but no. See, but now they've made him strong, and solely because it can be then a threat to Liv. Because that was the only time Luke, anyone, but Luke, including Luke, was concerned about them merging was because because Liv would die. No one cared when it was Luke. No one cared that Luke may die. Luke dying was quite acceptable, even to Luke himself.
Well, of
And if
course,
that was so, And if that was even slightly in doubt, the fact that this week he positively ran to sacrifice himself at the first opportunity,
hmm
it's oh
well, the funny thing is, when it happened, it was obvious from the very beginning that he was going to die. There was never any doubt that he was going to die.
hmm And this is what annoys me. Some of the fans were saying, "I didn't know which of the four were going to die." I say, "Oh bullshit! Are you paying even the slightest bit of attention?"
This is the Vampire Diaries, right?
Hmm.
There was never any other way for it to go.
Yeah, it's and it emphasizes as well just how undeveloped this character is. He has done nothing. He disappeared for weeks on the end in the same plot box Bonnie used to occupy. She's now got a plot dimension.
Hmm.
hmm But until then, I just I can't. What annoys me again is the return to our previous point about social media promotion. Vampire Diaries went round the hills and back selling Luke. Look, we've got a gay character.
Because at that point they had to realize it was ridiculous to have the show on the air for as long as it did and to have a completely straight cast. Even in, Mystic Falls, home of the founders.
hmm
I think that's what it came down to, but at the same time, they had no idea what to do with the gay character when they got it.
Yep.
Just as they don't really know. I mean, to some extent, I'm at the point of sort of excusing them, and I'll tell you why. I don't
hmm
think they know how to write these characters, period. Not just like the gay characters. I don't think they know how to write characters of color. I don't
hmm
think they know how to write LGBT characters. They just don't. They know how to write a specific model, and then that's it. And anything else is absolutely beyond them.
Yep. They just throw in random tokens. That's it. And they
Exactly.
are blatantly tokens, and they can't even be bothered to try to develop them. They're just going to say, "No, here's have some tropes."
I don't even know that they realize that they're tropes. That's the thing. You know, I'm not giving them a pass.
Hmm.
Okay, I am not giving them a pass. What I'm saying is, I don't necessarily know that. I don't necessarily think that they know that the characters that they're creating and promoting are trope laden.
The
Because
sad
for the
thing.
most part I mean, let's face it, they haven't, I mean, there've been the occasional call out, but it's been on all these seasons
hmm
and not many have actively complained about it. It's got a big, huge fandom,
Yep.
and this model is working for them.
And it's kind of sad that it is working this much, that there isn't any call out, and also it's just kind of sad that even without call out, even without a fan backlash, that the show creators are literally in such a bubble that they don't realize why this is hurting them.
But that's just it. Is it hurting them?
Well, sorry, I'm
Is
not so
it?
much hurting us, rather. I'm it's kind of depressing how little they care, or how ignorant they are.
I think it comes down to they don't have to do better, so they're not going to.
Yeah, far too often.
There's been no incentive for them to do better. I got into it this week with somebody. The very idea that being critical of Bonnie, for instance, is not supporting my people.
Oh, yeah, that I think that's another problem. I see this as well in the LGBT community as well. The mere existence of a minority character is not praiseworthy. We have to get past this. We have got to stop taking every marginalised character, no matter how trope laden, how minor, or how stereotypical, and say, oh, this is amazing. I saw Vampire Diaries expressly mentioned as inclusion in the GLAAD Awards.
Oh
For
dear.
this! And it's terrible. What is wrong with us?
Well, that's my point, though. Why would they even begin to think they have to change?
hmm This is it's and that's it. But yeah, because we will praise these tokens. This is why I say fandom. You've got to stop this. You've got to stop praising non-entity tokens. You've got to stop waving the flag for Bonnie and the crap on Team Wolf and every other tiny minor token that comes along. Stop. substance is needed.
I mean, I just think it's gone past the days where, hey, oh my God, squee, a face like us, even if they are the maid, or whatever the case may
Exactly.
be for your particular group. We've gotten past that point, and we need to stop rewarding it,
Hmm.
you know, and hold these people accountable, or we're never going to see change. You're going to have characters like Luke, who, as far as I'm concerned, was really a non-character.
He wasn't. He wasn't even remotely. Um, he wasn't even remotely slightly developed. He was nothing.
But hey, cookie points.
Yep, exactly.
And have got to say, you're not getting anywhere with this.
Hmm.
Which is why I'm going to say that I'm glad that Sleepy Hollow is now having trouble dialing back to that. I would like to see, however, these older established shows, like the Vampire Diaries. What is it? What are they on? Season 5 now? 6?
6, I think.
Okay. I'd like these older established shows to start to feel the heat of what it is they're producing.
Yeah, they need some backlash. They need some changes. And the sad thing is, as well, I think this is another problem as well of us praising tokens, is in some ways when these shows do start to change, I also think we have to be very aware of how much of a backlog they have. Like, one thing I've seen on Supernatural is it's Supernatural in the last season, season 10, has actually been a lot better with women, for example, than it has previously. It's managed to subvert a lot of its previous tropes. We had like Dean murder a guy who wanted him to try and murder his cheating wife, and he said, "Seriously, it's her life, it's her sex life. You want me to kill her because she doesn't want to be with you anymore? You should have been grateful when you had her." And there was another one with his womanizing where a woman openly called him out, and it's not much. Don't get me wrong. Don't even. I'm not even saying it's good for women. It isn't. It's still terrible as far as gender is concerned. But that's the point. It is better now because I think they're finally hearing that. I think in some quarters they are getting disproportionate praise for not being as bad as they were. And I think we have to be careful about that as well.
Yes, I tend to agree with you on that.
Hmm. So I think we need to. I mean, I'm glad. I am. Don't get me wrong for a second. I am glad that Supernatural has had moments where we go, "Oh, I never expected you that from you, Supernatural. Well done." But I'm glad they're having those moments. But at the same time, being absolutely awful and then being not quite so awful is also not something we should be jumping up and down for.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Are we moving onward?
I think we should, because otherwise I'm just going to hiss. 12 Monkeys.
All right. 12 Monkeys is just 3 episodes in,
Hmm.
so it's really hard to say too much about it. But what I can say is the few characters of color we have been introduced to are largely dead.
Yes.
And yes, I know it's only 3 episodes, but it looks like a really ugly trend. I'm
Hmm.
not liking the way this looks.
This is one thing is for a long time, I'm still I still have the idea that I wait till episode 6 before saying, nope, I'm now going to kill this with axes. But the number of people of colour it's killed in its very short stay so far is kind of not really allowing me to stick to that rule. I want to say, well, it's still early days yet, but come on, seriously?
Yeah, it's looking bad.
Yeah.
Pretty bad, if you ask me.
And it's a case of, well, you know what? I want to keep, still apply my 6 episode rules, but at this point, the number of people of color they've killed, particularly since they've got they've got one other semi-recurring person of color recently in 2043, who's an angry an angry guard.
Hmm.
So, and I don't think he's going to go anywhere good either.
Yeah, I very much doubt it.
Yeah. So and unless there's something to say, and now we're going to introduce our real cast, 7 more characters, and look, they're all people of colour, and they're all amazing characters and fully developed and non-stereotyped. That's the kind of the position where that is kind of what they have to do at this point to try and turn it round.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Too late.
Yeah, I can't think. This is always going to be a stain on it. They may bring in some other good things, and they may try finally bring in some decent characters. But this mere fact they've killed off as many as they have already, that's always going to stain now.
Yeah. At least to me, anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel right. I want it. It's not just that. It's also in terms of gender. They're not doing that hot either.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm battling because I know I'm also fighting off my own sort of bias because I was not a fan. Um, I was not a fan of the movie.
Hmm.
I've said many times. So then I sit there and I wonder, is it me? Is it because I'm like channeling the movie?
Hmm.
But something doesn't feel right about it. It just doesn't.
Well, the thing is, it's just feeling. Uh, it's feeling not that original. It's still got some very close parallels to the films. We've got a nearly all-white cast, and we've got time traveling to stop a dystopian. Well, that's kind of been done since Terminator. I mean, I'm intrigued by it, but it still hasn't hooked me in. If someone said tomorrow, "I'm sorry, because of a tragic meteor strike, there'll never be another episode of 12 Monkeys," I would say, "Oh." And I mean, I wouldn't celebrate that it's ended. It's not like, for example, if tomorrow Vampire Diaries was cancelled, you wouldn't see me doing the Macarena up and down the street. But at the same time, I wouldn't be disappointed. And it's 3 episodes in, it needs to hook me in, and that's even aside from the marginalised issues, which aren't great. No LGBT characters, a plethora of dead people of colour, um, and one prominent woman who is still kind of defined by still has a lot of relationship baggage hanging around her.
With Aaron, and now the whole look at the sexual chemistry between her and Cole.
Yeah,
You know,
and it seems to be moving in on her more.
exactly.
So yeah,
And the pushback against Jones, who's supposed to be the authority figure there.
and say, no, how dare you tell me what to do? Well, she's the expert. She's the doctor. She's trying to save the future. Whereas, from what we can see, you are a passing scavenger who happen to have the convenient woo-woo.
Well, I mean, this is it. And then the story, just plain and simple, is unworkable to me. Um, because the way the timeline works, all I keep thinking about is we're going to go through all of this and find out at the very end that he failed,
Hmm.
and he did not actually change history.
I think they're going to have to drag it out more because they'll want the potential for another season.
Yeah, but that's basically it. I mean, we're going to go on these who are the 12 monkeys and try to find these connections, and it had me the first episode and quickly lost me. Um, and I think it's a thing to have a 2-hour movie and then try to stretch it out to like even 13 episodes.
Hmm.
Um, how far can you push the story? And I'm already at the 3-hour mark going, yeah, I'm done. Wrap it up. Even without all the faults, I'm already there at the 3-hour mark going, wrap it up, I'm done.
It's a shame because I'm not done personally, but yeah, I'm not investing either.
I mean,
It's the kind of show where I have to, when I'm watching it as well, I have to fight not to do something else as well.
you kind of want to, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sold. Not at all. But I went into it with bias. I didn't expect to be sold. Didn't like the movie.
Mm. I'll still keep watching it, and there's a chance that it could still turn it round and become a show which I'll enjoy. Potentially, it could still do that, but it's never going to be a show which I'm going to praise at this stage.
Pretty much. We should talk Helix really quick though.
Yes. Um, so, Helix. Now, I have been saying in the past two episodes, why have we completely rebooted this series and left the people of color behind? Why have we done this? And then this episode, I've said, why have we rebooted the series and brought back the people of color like this? And what? Why?
Oh, did you see Hiroshi's hair? Oh,
I can get past the hair. It's the here's my headless son because let's throw in some mental illness
no.
tropes as well.
I
Oh,
looked no for me. I looked at the hair and I'm like, ooh, starring Hiroshi as the Last Samurai. I mean, to be honest, very much. And maybe that's because of the way his character was last season that made me say that.
hmm
Yeah, it's a problem.
I will say one thing though. I am quite happy that he's not playing a sinister scientist. I mean, this may be the first time that actor hasn't.
Yes. For now, for now,
hmm
I thought it was interesting that his son was represented by a grizzly bear, right? Because he's being native, being the character
Yeah.
being native. I thought that was an interesting choice for representation and stuff.
hmm
I mean, the problem is, however, you don't really want to invest in it because next year it's going to be Helix in space. You kind of watch it and go, okay, well, this is this week's weirdness. Let's see, what's next week's weirdness sort of deal. I refuse to get roped in a second time.
Yeah. I mean, that's another. This complete reboot of the series is still something I can't get over because what's really hacks me off. I was looking forward to Helix coming back. I was looking forward to the Narvik virus reaching the world and goo zombies eating everything and Ilaria doing evil, sinister things. And then, no, we go play I'm a goo zombie, get me out of here on this island somewhere.
Hmm. Pretty much it. And I think it's because they didn't know what to do with it. So, hey, reboot.
Yeah.
And we'll just show the characters being traumatized a little bit, you know? And can I just say that there is one thing I still enjoy about Helix, and that is that it plays the weirdest music at the most unexpected time.
It is quite. I mean, I think it's still got quite a lot of artisticness there.
When that doctor was being beaten up this week, I was just really
Really,
the
yeah.
music they were playing.
It's really good at these stunning juxtapositions.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It was bizarre, and it caught my attention. But that alone is not reason enough to watch an hour of Helix, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's again. I'm actually kind of willing to keep going with Helix simply because I'm curious now. Simply because I'm not watching it I'm not intrigued like I am with 12 Monkeys. I'm just a case of okay, what shit you gonna throw this week? Come on. I mean, in some ways, it's almost like American Horror Story level of watching, simply because you don't know what random crap is going to be thrown at the screen.
Hmm.
But it's not exactly amusing. It's not exactly fun. And also, can Julia please stop being chained up to a chair? And this is like literally the entire season to date.
Well, I suppose someone has to be tied to a chair.
Uh, and I will say this though, I honestly don't know where it's going next. But I don't particularly care either, and I don't think it'll necessarily make a lot of sense. And I wish they'd probably do them a lot of good not to keep doing flashbacks to season one because they don't apply.
Hmm.
hmm
I kind of agree with you in that. I kind
Yeah,
of agree with you in that. I mean, I don't understand it.
I don't even know what's going on there.
Well, I've given up trying to figure out what's going on. And why is she looking for Alan? And how old would he be?
He'd be dead. I mean, if it's when she found his body, that was realistic because he's like All right, he may not be dead. He could be 60, no, 70. Because Alan must be pushing his way to 40 at least.
Exactly. So why are they looking for him again?
I don't know. Because maybe he knows the way to San Jose, which no one has explained at all.
That's my line.
Hmm.
That's my line. As you recall.
Well, I agree. You were the one who called it out first, but no, that's exactly the kind of thing. Just random shit. And is anyone going to explain this?
No need. It's Helix.
Hmm.
No need to explain it. It just is. That's all you need to know, basically.
I don't really have much more to say about Helix, simply because what is there to say about Helix?
Nothing.
Beyond, I
Except
was
eventually
waiting.
we'll figure out the way to San Jose.
Yeah, and then there's probably the seasonal reboot, and then we'll be on a space station with gas zombies.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Was there anything else?
I think we'll have to pass the next time. Um, so we're going to have to move on to our book of the week, which is Lady of Integrity by Shelley Adina. Do you want to start, Renee?
No.
um, I love this series for being fun. I don't think this series was just quite as fun as this book was quite as fun as previous ones, but it had all of the classic elements. It was swashbuckling, it was fun. We have some really good characters, and I really do kind of appreciate that Claire is a strong female character surrounded by other strong female characters. I particularly like in this one there was Gloria Merriweather Astor, who could have been a mean girl or could have been a ditzy airhead. It would have been so easy. But to turn her into a respected peer is something I appreciated a great deal, because it's so easy, so very easy to play the mean girl trope, to have a woman seem incredible by making every other woman terrible, which we've seen so many times, but Claire doesn't do that. I also appreciated that the Mopsies are not the Mopsies anymore. They're Liz and Maggie. They're developing their own independent personalities, their own independent characterization, and I appreciate that as well.
Please.
I love them as characters, but I like that they've grown up now. They're individuals. They're characters in their own right.
No, no, no. Children shouldn't be allowed to grow up. No, no, nope, nope.
I also appreciate a lot of the sexism challenges in this book. Now, some of them you see a lot in steampunk now. The woman who decides she doesn't want a husband and she's intelligent and she can do her own thing is becoming a staple in female-led steampunk.
Yes.
But I also like to think there was another element here, was not only is she seen as intelligent, and even people who see her as intelligent and capable are still presenting her with the trope that still applies today. You've got to choose between family or career. You can't do both, and if there is a family, we'll expect you to prioritize that, and that's the problem. When Zeppelin basically confronted her about going to rescue Jake, he was effectively saying, I need you to prove to me you are going to be more loyal to your career than your family, which is never a question that is going to be applied to a male character. And I appreciate the distinction there, that this was brought in as an extra level of nuance. It wasn't just people like the Major the captain, who deeply underestimates Claire over and over again and is well and truly told, or her refusing to accept orders from him, or even the Mopsies refusing to accept orders from Claire necessarily, and asserting their own agency. I like the fact that even one of her most passionate supporters, who deeply respects her intelligence capability, is still clinging to this sexist trope that if you have a family and if you are loyal to your family, this is going to damage your career, when it would not apply to a man in the same situation. And putting Claire in a rather impossible position. So I did appreciate that. There's a little more nuance there than you get from your standard, I don't let men tell me what to do, females-led steampunk. Hello? You have gone silent. This is worrisome. In addition to that, I like the fact that even though Claire went off adventuring, they made a point of emphasizing that she was doing it for a reason. The politics of the situation meant that she couldn't get official help. I like that because you've got a lot of protagonists in this genre who stick their nose in where they have no business, and usually it's a case of you should be calling the police, you should be calling the authorities. Why the hell are you getting involved? I like the fact that Shelley Adina made a point to have Claire have a reason to be involved beyond just I'm the protagonist, so I should need to be. So I like that as well. I like the fact she's extending her world building a little more into different lands. I say I don't think it was as brilliant a story as some of the previous ones, but it was still very fun. It had all the standard swashbuckling plot twists and general amusement that this series has, and I do appreciate books that are fun. I think too many books are afraid to be fun because we need to be dark or edgy or something or other. So I do appreciate it. Diversity-wise, I mean, brilliant on gender. Totally brilliant on gender, but there's still no LGBT characters, and Tig is the only person of colour in this book, and
Yeah.
he's non-stereotyped, and he's always there. But that's kind of what I can say about him. He's non-stereotyped, and he's always there. I can't really say anything else about him other than the fact that he's present. You know
Which
what I
isn't
mean?
good.
Yeah, and yes, he's becoming a love interest for one of the Mopsies, and he's not a bad character, and he's not dogged by stereotype, but he isn't involved, and he isn't doing anything. He's kind
Hmm.
of wallpaper.
Okay.
I don't dislike the character by any stretch of imagination, but he's not really involved in anything. So yes, there's a person of colour there, but that's kind of their end of the discussion. There's a person of colour there. This concludes everything I can say about him.
Hmm.
So great on gender, on other axes, not really so much. It has to be said. I did like the little shout out to remember the house they had way back in book one. It's amazing that we're on to book
Yes.
7 now. I like that they're keeping that house up and they're still taking these urchins and orphans off the street, because I did kind of think, well, you kind of abandoned them. What happened? I'm glad that we had a little shout back say, oh, actually, yeah, they're still there. They're still under Lady Claire's family is still there. That she still has this family, this extended family.
Hmm.
Which I appreciated that.
The Lady of Devices.
So yeah, I liked it. I did. I liked it. It was fun. It was expanding the world building, and its gender um, challenges are excellent. They really are. Not so much on other axes, and again, it was perhaps not quite as fun as previous ones, but that's less a problem and more a
Is
high
it?
standard has been set.
Oh, well, you know what? That's, I think, a good problem to have.
Exactly. I mean, when I say this isn't quite as fun as previous books, I still gave it 4 fangs. It was still great fun. It's just that, previously it was even more fun. Let's say that's a problem when you set a high standard.
Yeah. And as problems go,
It's a good problem to have.
definitely.
And I'll certainly be reading the next book, and I'm loving it. I don't think I've seen many books which have this many strong female characters all respect each other as peers and equals of equal skill and equal worthiness of respect,
Hmm.
working together, and it's really nicely done. I say it just needs and again, it does go a little more deeper into sexism than what I mean. We are seeing quite a lot of these strong female characters who I don't want to be married in steampunk.
Yeah, it's
It's
the same
not.
way.
It's
In
a thing now.
the same way, when you have a urban fantasy, she's got to be ass kicking, and
Yeah,
you know.
it's still a good. It's still good. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's It's no longer something you can point to and say, "Oh well, that's unique." It's not. It's not unique. It's not original anymore. It's just one of those things. But it goes further, which I appreciate.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a great book, and this series just keeps being great as well. I don't think there's been a bad book in this series.
And you know what? Probably a good example to people of why they should give indie authors a chance.
Yeah, I am still kind of, I still honestly, I forget that she's an indie author. I forget that she's self-pub because particularly the quality of even little things like the quality of the covers on these books are
Yeah,
really good. I mean, it sounds like such a shallow thing to praise, but that's often one of the things we see in a lot of self-pubs is damn ugly covers.
yeah, no time, no effort spent,
Yeah,
um, nothing appealing.
but Shelley Adina is not just easily as good as any non-indie book out there, but she's better than most. I'm not saying she's good for an indie author. She is good, pure and
Hmm.
simple. And I'm just kind of amazed that she's not traditionally published in some ways, which I suppose shows some bias in favour of traditional publishing. But I'm amazed that she hasn't been snapped up.
Maybe she will be one day.
Yeah, I
But
hope
I
so.
I like to think of it as proof. I mean, you have to wade through a lot of muck, even when you're reading traditionally published authors. You know, and I
Hmm.
don't think it's any more muck than indie authors. They just have a bad rap. So I think it's worth pointing out when we come across a good one. Hey,
Exactly.
keep that in mind.
I
You
think we're
know.
very vindicated to keep because I know a lot of book blogs will not read independent publishing, and your choice. You choose what you want to read, and I know we've all been burned.
Oh,
So
have we ever?
yeah, I do think that yeah, there is actually more likelihood of having an author lose their ever loving mind in your space if they're indie, mainly because there's less insulation between them.
Hmm.
I mean, one the counterexample will always be Anne Rice.
Oh yes. Well, she just loves to be a diva.
Yeah, but I think every now and again I like Shelley Adina is a classic example of why it's still worth going for indie authors. Whatever your issues with indie publishing, whatever bad experiences you've had in the past, my counter argument is Shelley Adina. I think Shelley Adina and Chantal Madsen, and
Yep.
yeah, and also I've got Raphael Chandler. Say yes, there are some terrible out there and some bad experiences, but you are missing out on some really good books if you avoid independent publishing. And Shelley Adina's 7 book Magnificent Devices series is one of the best we've read, and it's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's saying something. You know.
Yeah,
There definitely is good out there. You just sometimes, and you know, when in doubt, I think the easiest thing to do is to go to a reviewer that you trust if they have reviewed the book and give it a shot that way
exactly.
before rejecting it completely out of hand.
Yeah, and that's it. You just don't just say it's independently published, so meh. Trust me, it's worth it. Sometimes there's some really good gems out there. And now in
Hmm.
bonus, these gems are usually quite cheap. I hate to be
Yes,
shallow about it, but it's true.
yes, which can be a selling feature, you know.
Yeah,
Not all of them, I mean, yes, I myself have come across some bad ones. Definitely, I have come across some bad ones. But you, the same argument stands with traditionally published books. I have come across some bad ones, and yet that hasn't stopped me from reading.
yeah,
So, if anything, I think that I like pointing it out because um, it's a boom.
yeah. I do. I think there is a lot of negativity about self-published authors and indie published authors. A case of don't cheat yourself out of these great books, and because that's what you're doing just by discounting them. It's worth it.
Hmm.
Uh, on that note, I don't think I have much more to add other than do read this book. Our book of the week for next week is The Diabolical Miss Hyde by Viola Carr, which is another steampunk slash Victoriana thing, which I do kind of have a weak spot for, I have to say.
I like steampunk too.
Yeah, I like the aesthetics of it.
So do I.
So that's our book of the week next week. We will, of course, be following all of our old shows as well. And next week, we'll also make a point of talking about other books we've been reading individually as well, in addition to our book of the week, because I know we
Oh,
have things to say.
do I have to talk to you all about the Outlander series?
Oh, you'll be looking forward to it. I know you will.
Oh, I have to vent. I have to vent. I'm owed at least that.
I think you are. But until then, you can catch us in all our usual places, fangsforfantasy.com, Fangs for Fantasy on Twitter, Goodreads, Booklikes, Library Thing, Tumblr, Facebook. We're all over. And you can always email us at fangsforfantasy@gmail.com. In addition, you're coming up to the close of the nominations for the Urban Fantasy Awards 2015. So all of those places I just mentioned, you can contact us, send us your nominations. Which books, TV series, or whatever deserve a Golden Fang or a Dread Fire a Dread Fan Poodle? So, just send us your nominations by hook or by crook. Wherever we get them, we will add them to our nominations post. Because the awards are approaching. So, other than that, I hope to see everybody next week at the same time, same place. If you've missed this episode or any previous episode, you can find all of our archives on YouTube or on Fangs for Fantasy itself. I hope to see you all at the same time, same place next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Have a good week.
Bye.